At LN247, we bring the news closer to you.
Is failing to protect Christian.
And from Nigeria, we go to Kenya, where President William Ruto.
It was powerful all over the world.
Local and international news every hour, every day.
And the deal was struck.
Here on LN247.
The eyes have it.
Let's look at the key drivers.
LN247, where the story goes, we go.
At LN247, we bring the news closer to you.
Is failing to protect Christian.
And from Nigeria, we go to Kenya, where President William Ruto.
It was powerful all over the world.
Local and international news every hour, every day.
And the deal was struck.
Here on LN247.
The eyes have it.
Let's look at the key drivers.
LN247.
Where the story goes, we go.
Hello and welcome to the Front Burner. And today's topic, we have the first 4 minutes when a life sleeps, who steps in. This is a very, very important topic that we're diving in today. So we hear he laughed 5 minutes ago. She was standing in line. He was arguing about fuel price. Then suddenly silence. There's a body on the floor. People gather. Someone shouts, give him space. Someone says, pour water. Someone brings out a phone, and life begins to live. In Nigeria today, if you collapse in public, your survival may depend not on the hospital, but on the stranger standing next to you. Now the question is, will that stranger know what to do? Today we ask a poignant question: are Nigerians dying because we don't know CPR? This morning we confront a hard truth. Nigerians are not just dying from cardiac arrests, many are dying from ignorance. Now, on this edition of the Front Burner, we shall be examining 3 talking points. The first talking point is the 5 minutes where life slips away. The second talking point, the crowd that watches. And the third talking point is beat the heartbeat. And to have this conversation this morning, we are joined by Kata Babatunde Olayemi. He's a senior trainer with the Nigerian Red Cross Society, NRCS, at the national headquarters, Abuja. He's also a certified first aid trainer, emergency responder, and health and safety professional. Hello, Kata. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting the Nigerian Red Cross.
Well, we're so pleased to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not alone here. We have Lara today with us. She's going to be asking questions and, giving her inputs on the show as we go.
Good morning, Carter. Thank you for joining us. Good morning from here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear her? Okay. Now, the first topic
Can you hear me?
said the first 5 minutes where life slips away. Now, doctors say the brain begins to die within minutes without oxygen, not hours, not tomorrow, minutes. So between collapse and ambulance, there is a dangerous silence. That silence is where lives are lost. We want to examine the critical golden minutes after collapse and why Nigeria is failing in that window. But first, let's roll out some scary statistics. Now, cardiovascular diseases cause about 11% of all deaths in Nigeria. Out of hospital cardiac arrest occurs at 100 to 200 cases per 100,000 Nigerians yearly. Survival rate is only 1% to 5% in Nigeria. And only about 10% of victims receive CPR from bystanders. Wow. This is a shocking statistic for a nation like ours. So let's look at the global urgency stats. Sudden cardiac arrest kills 7 to 9 million people worldwide yearly. Immediate CPR can double or triple survival chances, and survival drops 7 to 10% for every minute without CPR. So in light of this, Mr. Carter, when someone collapses suddenly, what is medically happening in the person's body?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Now, when someone suddenly collapses, there could be several medical conditions that contribute to that. Someone could faint, for instance, and suddenly collapse, right? But to a great extent, let's limit this to cardiac arrest. Now, within 4 minutes, brain damage starts to set in. And after 10 minutes, brain damage is irreversible.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is very important to, do CPR if it is cardiac arrest. But before doing CPR, you first have to check whether the person is breathing or not. Because if the person is breathing and you do CPR, that's not the right thing to do. You could harm the casualty. You'll be exerting all that pressure that's not needed. So when you check for breathing, if the casualty is breathing, meaning they are unconscious but breathing, the first aid management to do is to maintain their airway open by placing them in recovery position. But if the casualty is not breathing, check for breathing for up to 10 seconds, not more than 10 seconds. If the casualty is not breathing, that is when you do cardiopulmonary resuscitation, so that you manually pump blood so that the brain and the vital organs can keep getting blood.
Oh, that's really great. Now, how many minutes does the brain have before permanent damage can begin?
All right, so brain damage starts to set in within 4 minutes, and after 10 minutes, brain damage is irreversible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we just have like 10 minutes to...
Roughly. So you have to start CPR immediately. You check for breathing and the casualty is not breathing.
Wow. Lara, please, do you have questions for him? I'm sure you have questions that you do want to, ask our guest this morning.
So some people mix up cardiac arrest with heart attack. Can you differentiate what cardiac arrest is from what a heart attack is? And can you just break down what is CPR? What is C? What is P? What is R? For our viewers who are watching.
The beating of the heart pumps blood to the brain and vital organs, and the brain needs oxygen. Oxygen is carried in the blood. So, for any medical reason, if the heart stops beating, that's referred to as cardiac arrest. Now, heart attack, on the other hand, is when there's a blockage to the artery that supplies the heart with blood. So, cardiac arrest, the heart suddenly stops beating. Heart attack, there's a blockage in blood flow to the heart muscles. That's the major difference between the two. So, heart attack can even lead to cardiac arrest. They are different, but heart attack can lead to cardiac arrest.
Okay. And she was asking the full meaning of CPR. Yeah.
So CPR is cardio. That's the C, cardio. Then the P means pulmonary. That's referring to the lungs. The R means resuscitation. So CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And that's what anyone should do for someone that is unconscious and not breathing. So you manually pump blood so the brain and the vital organs can keep getting oxygenated blood.
Okay. Now, in Nigeria, what are the survival chances of somebody that has suffered cardiac arrest, outside the hospital?
Well, it's very low because Nigeria is developing. In developed countries, there are policies in those countries that makes sure that every single person, every citizen in the country, everybody in the country is trained. You can't travel to some countries except you have first aid certificates. You've been trained by a reputable organization on first aid. But for Nigeria, we don't have that policy yet. So a lot of people don't know how to give first aid. A lot of people don't know how to do CPR. So the rate is low.
Okay. So why do you think I think you've mentioned some of them, but are there other reasons why survival is so low here compared to other developed countries?
Yeah. Now, training is very important. Even if you're just a bystander and someone suddenly collapses, you might end up doing the wrong thing. Like we talked about before, it's not everybody that collapses now that it's cardiac arrest. Someone can collapse now and the person will be unconscious but breathing. In that case, you're not supposed to do CPR. What you're supposed to do, once you check for breathing, within 10 seconds, for not more than 10 seconds, you find that the person is breathing, you're supposed to make sure you maintain that person's airway open en route to the hospital. Now, in developed countries, you call emergency number and within minutes, 3 minutes, emergency responders are available. But in Nigeria, most times we have to carry the casualty to the hospital. Now, someone could be involved in a motor accident and maybe hit their head on a part of the vehicle and that knocks them unconscious. Ordinarily, the person could be breathing. But because of lack of, inadequate knowledge in first aid, the good Samaritans or the bystanders that want to help the person might now just carry the person, put in their vehicle and try to rush the person to the hospital without checking for breathing. Now, it hasn't even gotten to the case that the casualty is unconscious and not breathing. The casualty could be unconscious but breathing. But then, they're supposed to maintain the casualty's airway open. But because they don't have that knowledge, they'll just put the person in the vehicle and the airway is going to be blocked. By the way, the tongue is the culprit here. The tongue blocks the airway when someone is unconscious and not when somebody becomes unconscious. The tongue falls back and blocks the airway. Because for someone that is unconscious, all the muscles in the body gets relaxed. If someone is unconscious, you leave the hand, it falls down. The muscles in the body get relaxed. So the tongue also gets relaxed and falls back and blocks the airway. So that knowledge is very important because for those people trying to help this guy now that was involved in the accident, if they check for breathing and they find out that the guy is breathing, all they need to do is to maintain his airway open pending when they get to the hospital. That is going to save his life. But if the person is unconscious and not breathing, you're going to have to do CPR. So to maintain airway open, to do CPR, you need to have knowledge.
Yeah, it's not just something you...
Yeah, you need to place your hand in the right place. You need to, you need to do your compressions, 100 to 120 compressions per minute. The depth, it should be within 5 to 6 centimeters. So I think training is very, very important, and also awareness on what to do if situations like that happen.
I think Lara has a question for you.
Go to our second talking point. Before we go to our second talking point, can I ask, how do you clear the airways? You keep mentioning that something is clear the airways. How do I clear the airways if I run into a victim that is probably just unconscious and the heart has not stopped breathing? How do I clear the airways? Just in a minute before we go to our second talking point.
Once you attend the first aid training, you get to learn about Dr. ABCD. That's what we use to manage casualties. As a first aider, anytime you want to manage a casualty, you use Dr. ABCD. Now, it guides you, check for danger, check for response, then open the airway. Opening the airway is very simple. The casualty could be lying on the floor. You place your palm on the forehead, 2 fingers under the chin, and you tilt the head backwards like that. So that takes the tongue from the back of the airway. Then you now check for breathing by looking, listening, and feeling. Yeah, so it's as simple as this. You open the airway. So Dr. ABCD, D, R, A, B, C, D. D, danger, R, response, A, airway, you open the airway, then B, breathing, you check for breathing.
Wow. We're having a full medical course here, and, it's really interesting for our viewers. I'm sure at this point you would have, learned a thing or two. So the tragedy is not just that people collapse. The tragedy is that help does not begin soon enough. And in those first 5 minutes, Nigerians are often unprepared. We'll move to our second talking point, which is the crowd that watches. So can we show blood footage of, public collapsings? So this is the new Nigerian emergency response system. A circle, crowd shouting, recording, waiting, but nobody kneels, not in prayers, but in CPR. So When did we become a nation of spectators instead of respondents? What is fueling our ability to respond at such critical moments? Is it fear? Is it myths? Is it culture? Or is it social media behavior? Which brings us to this question, Mr. Carter. Why are people afraid to perform CPR?
All right. Now, Nigeria is a large country. You might be in some parts of Nigeria now that you perform CPR on a casualty and the casualty revives. But, the fact that you're even performing CPR does not mean the casualty is going to revive. Now, if something goes wrong, the family members could say it is that person that was performing the CPR that led to the demise of the casualty. So I think that's one reason why some people will be afraid. And also, they might not know what to do. Yeah, but I would say that most times people actually respond. But like we're talking about the airway situation now, someone that suddenly collapsed, going through Dr. ABCD, you need to, if you check for response and the casualty does not respond, you need to open the airway and check whether they are breathing or not. But people, don't have the knowledge. So some people might even, I've been in places where someone suddenly collapsed, was involved in an accident, and people there just went to start doing CPR, chest compression for the person. And the person was shouting, and they were still doing chest compression for the person. You see? So I think Nigerians actually respond to a great extent, but they make mistakes.
They just don't know what to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So it still boils down to that training, knowledge. It's very, very important. If you have the knowledge of something, you'll be very confident to do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the knowledge, even someone that has been trained before might find themselves in a situation, an emergency situation, and they start to panic, they become confused. So that's one of the qualities of a first aider, to be confident and not to panic. Yes.
So with everything you're saying that it's possible that CPR can harm someone if that's not what the person needs.
Not necessarily, but there's no point doing CPR for somebody that does not need CPR. Yes. So knowledge is very, very important. I believe if a lot of Nigerians have the knowledge of what to do, they know exactly what to do because they've been trained. I believe if they have the knowledge of what to do, the issue of people not responding in case of an emergency will not be, will not be there, because people will do something and they will do the right thing. So the right thing is very important.
We'll move to Laura now. I think she has something to say.
Thank you very much for your contribution so far. When I was in secondary school, I was a member of the Red Cross, and I grew up in a medical home. So personally, I know what to do when somebody collapses, when somebody is not breathing. My mom, may God bless her memory, would tell me, first, like you rightly said, check if the person is breathing. If the person is breathing, loosen the tie, loosen the watch, loosen the shoes, so, the person can have the airways and all that can be clear. If the person is not breathing, and if there's something choking the person, just like rightly said, tilt the head backwards, or if the person is vomiting or breathing, tilt the head sideways, so whatever is coming out does not choke. Now, I have a problem with some of our cultures in Nigeria. If there is a man, for instance, stumbles on a woman who is unconscious, right, or maybe she's not breathing, let's start with her being unconscious. He moves close. Let's say a woman in hijab, and he moves close to touch her nose. He has committed a crime under Sharia law. If, okay, she's not breathing and he wants to perform the CPR, please let me understand why it is difficult for a man to perform a CPR on a woman, and vice versa. Is it our culture? Is it our religion? Are we just afraid that, okay, this a man should not touch a woman should not touch a man, even when the victim is in the throes of death?
women don't mix. So, you would put yourself in danger if you are in a community like that and you touch a woman, not to talk of you are trying to do CPR for the woman. Now, Dr. ABCD first aid formula starts with D, and D is a combination of safety and security danger. So I would even consider that as security danger if you are in a community or an area where that's you need to take that into consideration, and you don't take it into consideration. Now, you can introduce yourself. You should introduce yourself to people around, and you tell them what is going on. If they don't allow you to do it, if there's a woman there, you could guide her so that she should do it. Or if the husband of the casualty is there, if it's a woman that is casualty and the husband is there, you could guide the husband on what to do. This question actually comes up a lot, and there are still places in Nigeria that they don't mind. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, there's something we say. First aid is a combination of skills and practical common sense. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, and it's a woman that is a casualty, you're a man, it's going to be a challenge if you touch the woman, you could guide a female or the female around on what to do to help the woman.
Well, that makes so much sense. That makes really so much sense. Now, are there myths that Nigerians believe about reviving someone?
There are a lot of myths. As a trainer, I've done a lot of trainings with my colleagues in the office. We get to hear a lot of myths. We get to get a lot of questions. For instance, this might even be a very good opportunity to say this. Now, okay, I'll ask you. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. What do you think? Do you think epilepsy is contagious?
No.
Exactly. A lot of people believe epilepsy is contagious, and then someone suddenly collapses because of epilepsy, right? They know that it is epilepsy. In some communities, they'll say nobody should pass through that side, because if you walk over that area where the casualty fell and was jerking, that person that walked over it is going to get epilepsy. So there are a lot of myths I don't want to go into all that. There are a lot of myths. So awareness is very important.
I think Lara will have so much to say about that.
Mention. When I was in secondary school, I had a friend, very close friend, Salamatu. She was epileptic. And, I became a star in school because each time she had an episode, it was me to look for. Where's Lara? Where's Victoria? My English name is Victoria, by the way. Where is Victoria? Salamatu has collapsed. Salamatu has. Why? Because I was trained by my parents. My mother had told me that spit from her mouth is not contagious. In fact, let me quote my mother. She said, you can carry that spit and swallow it, that it won't do you anything as long as the Salamatu did not have maybe a cough or a flu or something. But at any time she collapses, just rush there, tilt her head sideways, tilt the head up so that, she doesn't choke on her spit, losing her bra if she's wearing one, losing her wristwatch and all of that. So I know that Nigerians are bereft of education. Nigerians are bereft of sensitization. And I must commend the Nigerian Red Cross for your efforts so far. But I still believe that there is so much to be done. There's so much ground to cover. And that's why on the show today, we are devoting this 1 hour to sensitizing our people, letting them know that some of these collapses we see that lead to death are actually preventable. It is not every case that requires a CPR, just a simple, people, and our culture, when somebody collapses, everybody's around. Hey, everybody, hey. So just clear the space, let the person breathe. The person may just have a low sugar level episode and all that. So I'm happy we are having this conversation. And I want to thank you very, very much for your insight. We'll go to our third talking point. And because on the show today, we want to be able to demonstrate how to do a CPR, want to be able to demonstrate how to clear the airwaves. So Ima Bong, you may want to move. Okay, can I take the third talking point? which is Be the Heartbeat. Imabong, you want to take that? Be the Heartbeat. And here we're looking at the solution. We're looking at what people should do when somebody's heart stops beating. So Imabong, wrap up this session and then we'll go to the third talking point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like she said, this is a very important conversation that we're having, because if people don't hear this, we can assume that everybody, has heard this and go on to do what we're doing wrong. But we're having this sensitization, this is part of the awareness that you talked about, this part of the knowledge that you talked about. So hopefully from now, our viewers will know what's right and be able to do what's right. I'll tell the talking points, be the heartbeats. Now, there is a rhythm that keeps us alive. When that rhythm stops, another human being can become the heartbeats. So CPR is not a medical degree. It is courage guided by knowledge, and knowledge powered by education and demonstration and empowerment. So I think we'd like you at this point to give us a live demonstration on how to, give CPR.
All right, can I?
Yes, you can.
All right. I would actually prefer to do this on the floor, but since this is the space we have now, the first thing I want to say is, this is not, how do I put it, an alternative to a real training. So I actually encourage every Nigerian to get trained in first aid. Yeah, and Nigerian Red Cross is the leading first aid training and first aid provider in the country. This is a mannequin, and then this is a dummy actually. It's an automated external defibrillator. It's called an AED for short, automated external defibrillator. It's also like those two things like pressing
the
iron.
Shocks, okay.
That you see, yeah, good. Now, a casualty that suddenly collapses could need CPR straight. Well, they actually all need CPR, but some CPR might not be enough to revive the casualty. An AED could be needed if the heart is fibrillating. So this is a defibrillator. Sometimes the heart could be fibrillating. The heart pumps blood, but when the heart is fibrillating, it's shaking. So when it's shaking, that individual is going to collapse because blood is not going out, and the brain and the vital organs, they are not getting blood. So that casualty is going to collapse. Now, following Dr. ABCD, the first thing you want to do is to check for danger. If there's danger, it has to be handled, then you proceed to check for response. So checking for response is you talking, hello, I'm a first aid, I want to help you. Hello, are you okay? Hello. So if the casualty responds, you don't need first aid formula again. You say, what's wrong with you? It tells you, oh, I'm hungry, and you know that he needs food, or it tells you, whatever it tells you, know what to do with the training that you've done. But if the casualty does not respond, you call for help. Now, this is another important point. In developed countries where there are emergency responders, all you need to do is to bring out your phone and dial emergency number, and in minutes, the emergency responders will come. But in Nigeria, when we call for help, you shout, somebody help, Now, the people that come, the person that comes, you tell the person, get a vehicle, we need to take mannequin to the hospital while you continue doing what you're doing, right? So that is out of the way now. This casualty, we've checked for danger, we've checked for response. There's no response, we call for help. The next thing you want to do, following Dr. ABCD, I said it's airway, right? Yeah. And you open the airway. So your palm on the forehead, permit me that I'm sitting down, I should actually be in your palm on the forehead, 2 fingers under the chin, you tilt the head backwards. So this lifts the tongue from the back of the airway, and then air is going to be able to pass. The casualty is going to be able to get air in the lungs. The next thing you want to do now is to check for breathing. So you do something like this. As first aiders, we look to see if the chest is rising and falling. We listen for sound of breathing, and then we feel for not more than 10 seconds. Medical people check for pulse, but it's complicated. You look, listen, and feel. Even if you can see the chest rising and falling, you already know that the casualty is breathing. But if you don't see the chest rising and falling, you don't hear sound, you don't feel the air, it means the casualty is not breathing. Now, that's when you need an AED, but it might not be there. So you go straight to do your compression. Now, where do you compress? It is very important. The center of the chest. You know, you can compress the neck, you can compress the stomach, and you use the heel of your hand. You don't use your palm, you use the heel of your hand, placing it at the center of the chest. Then you interlock your other hand. You can use your right first or your left. You lock your elbows. You know, you don't want your elbows to be like this. You lock your elbows, and then you start compressing. So 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Then after the first 30, you do, when you're doing cardiopulmonary resuscitation, you do 30 chest compressions, you give 2 rescue breaths. But if it's a stranger, you know, you don't want to use your mouth to give the rescue breath, as we call it mouth to mouth. So you can skip the rescue breath and stick with the compression only.
So it doesn't matter if you don't breathe into the person?
For your own safety. You see that danger in first aid formula, danger is a combination of safety and security. So, you know, why should I be a casualty, or why should I harm myself when I'm trying to help somebody? There's some amount of oxygen in the casualty's body or system already that will go around. But as a first aider, you should also have protective devices like this. It's called the resuscitation face shield. So if you have this, you can place it in the mouth of the casualty, and then you give the rescue breath. But the thing now is,
it filters the air.
Exactly.
Okay.
Air from you can get into the casualty, but you know, it protects you because the air or saliva, whatever, can't come out. And also, I like, you know, it is very important to skip the rescue breath if it is a stranger. You don't want to get hurt, you don't want to get infected. But I like it. But if it's a family member, now you know the person's health status, you should actually do it, because at the end of the day, you would be skipping it because of health-related issues. But then, this is a family member, I know the person does not have communicable disease, so why not? Now, when you want to give rescue breath, if you just blow in, the air is not going to go in because the tongue is blocking the airway. So to give the rescue breath, you are going to have to tilt the head backwards. This time around, you use these 2 fingers to pinch the nose, and then you blow. 1, 2. So cardiopulmonary resuscitation is a combination of 30 chest compressions, 2 rescue breaths, 30 chest compressions, 2 rescue breaths, until the casualty revives, medical, you know, emergency response around, or you get tired, in which case somebody should take over. Even if the person is not trained, you know, the person can take over while you rest. When you're getting tired, the person, while the person is getting tired, you keep switching like that. It's very important.
How long does it typically take for the person to regain consciousness?
It depends. It basically depends. Now, if the casual, I don't want to go too deep, but if the casualty's heart is fibrillating and you're doing CPR, you know, the likelihood that the casualty is going to revive is very low, because an aid is going to be needed. So the thing now is, once you called for help, you have somebody help, and they come, you say, get the vehicle, we need to take mannequin to the hospital, and the vehicle is around. You stop, carry the casualty to the vehicle, but you have to continue in the vehicle en route to the hospital. So when you get to the hospital, if it's defibrillation that is needed, they defibrillate and the casualty could revive. You know. So the point now is, if an aid is needed, that cardiopulmonary resuscitation you are doing is manually supplying blood and oxygen to the brain and the vital organs, pending when you get to the hospital.
Oh, it will be available.
Yes.
So even if the person doesn't like wake up, you're still helping the person.
Because you are supplying the brain and vital organs with oxygen. Remember, someone suddenly collapses and you don't do anything, in 4 minutes brain damage sets in. After 10 minutes, brain damage is irreversible. So CPR now manually supplies the brain with oxygenated blood, pending when emergency responders are available.
Okay. Oh, I think we get this now.
Yeah.
Lara, we're having a very good session here. Do you have what to say, please?
I see that. That's really very educative, very informative. Doctor, I said doctor. But, so you do 100 presses per minute. Is that what you said? 100 to 120 per minute.
100 to 120. You know, all these figures, you know, it might not be easy for people to understand it. That's why it's very important to do the practical. Because if you do the practical, this mannequin, for instance, now has indicator lights. And human beings don't have indicator light. So when you are doing the training, you are doing the practical, you get to learn how to judge the speed. Because if it's too fast, it's a problem. Okay. If it's too fast, it's a problem. If it's too slow, it's a problem. When it's too fast, once you press down, blood comes out of the heart. Once you take your hand off, blood enters, just like the heart is beating normally. So when the heart squeezes, blood comes out, blood enters, blood comes out, So if you are too fast, enough blood will not be entering the heart, so enough blood will not be coming out. The brain is not going to be getting oxygenated blood. Also, if you are too slow, the heart beats normally, boom, boom, boom. If you are too slow, the brain is still not going to get oxygenated blood. So it is very important that you do the training so that you get to know the speed, how to compress 100 to 120. That's about 2 compressions per second, right?
So like 100 every minute, is that what
100 to 120 per minute.
Okay. So, but you did mention 30 and 2 mouse.
Okay, now, you see, that's why I don't like... Now, when you are doing cardiopulmonary resuscitation, you do 30 chest compressions and 2 rescue breaths. Okay. But that 30 chest compressions you are doing, but you skip the rescue breath if it's a stranger, you don't know it. But that 30 chest compressions you are doing now, it has to be at the rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. You get it now?
Okay.
That 30 chest compressions.
60.
That 30 chest compressions is 30. You must complete that 30. But someone can be doing it now and the person is slow. Someone can be doing it and it's too fast. If it's slow or it's fast, it's too fast, you are not going to help the casualty. So it has to be perfect. And the calculation is within 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Okay. Do you understand?
Yeah. Okay.
Have you been trained in first aid before? I will do something about that.
We should. So while you're doing this CPR, how should you, if you hear something, a noise or something, like is it possible to crack someone's ribs?
Yeah.
Or?
But the thing is, you use the heel of your hand, you place the heel of your hand at the center of the chest here. This bone is called the sternum. Now the ribs is attached to the sternum. So if you place the heel of your hand at the center of the chest, the you are going to break the ribs is very low. But if you place maybe your palm or you place the heel of your hand on the ribs, the probability you are going to break the ribs is high. But even if you are doing CPR for somebody and the rib breaks, you should continue, because if you stop, in 4 minutes, the brain will start to get damaged. After 10 minutes, brain damage is irreversible. So if the ribs break in the hospital, the doctors could
do something about
it. Yes. So it's very important. If you hear a sound, if the ribs break, well, if the sound you hear is about that the casualty is reviving, you should actually stop. Okay. You are doing the CPR and then you see maybe they open their eyes or they jerk, they move, you should stop. Then you check if they've started breathing, then you stop. Okay. Yeah, but if it's because of the broken rib, please continue.
Lara, do you have more questions before we wrap up the session?
We can't wrap up now. I have questions. We can't wrap up now. So, Pata, what if the situation you meet on ground is that somebody's choking? Because the way you held the mannequin just now just reminded me of one of the rescue tips my parents gave me. If somebody, the person didn't faint, the person didn't collapse, there's no heart attack, but the person is choking, maybe choked on food. The way you held that mannequin, are you also trained, to teach people what to do in case somebody was choking? That's my number 1 question. Number 2 is that LN247 the staff want to be trained. We will have you back with all your mannequins and all that. We will train our staff and we will record and use it as a news item on our bulletin. So we also, give you publicity, and then we also benefit from this collaboration. Is that okay?
Questions like that. That's what we are here for. All right. So now, just to mention, someone that is choking can suddenly collapse. We have mild choking and we have severe choking. Now, okay, this brings up another myth. Someone might be eating now and get bone stuck in the throat.
I've had that happen to me before.
And then you hear some people say that give the person a morsel of food to swallow. Should I ask you how it
Yeah, it works. It works for me too.
What was done?
The morsel.
Now, that bone that was blocking the airway might be partially that was in the throat, that was stuck in wherever it was, might partially obstruct the airway, which would be considered as mild choking. And then you now give the person a morsel of food now that could go and lap on the bone and even completely block the airway. That casualty is going to suddenly collapse as well.
Wow.
Yeah, because the brain will stop getting oxygen, and so now choking has led to unconsciousness, that the person may even stop breathing. When you check for breathing, if the person is breathing in recovery position, if the person is not breathing, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. But the first aid management of someone that has an object obstructing the airway, the first thing you want to do is you still go through Dr. ABCD. So you check for danger, then response. You might see the person doing, are you choking? The person might not be able to say yes, but you say, you already got your response, right? You know he's choking. So the first aid management is to dislodge the object, not swallow. So the first aid to do is to dislodge the object. The next thing you want to do when you know the person is choking is you encourage the person to cough. You say, okay, cough. Can you cough? Cough. Get the person to cough. Coughing might dislodge it. It's easier for you to come out than to go inside. So coughing might dislodge it. As the casualty is trying to cough, you now give what we call up to 5 back slaps. Yeah, there's a way you stand, then you place your palm on the tummy just above the navel, then you slant the casualty like this. In between the shoulder blade, you give your back slaps up to 5. So it might dislodge the object. But even if it doesn't dislodge the object, you can still intensify the effort of dislodging the object this time around now by giving up to 5 abdominal thrusts. So for abdominal thrust, you need to do a real training. You make a fist, place it just above the navel, then you support it with your other hand. You wouldn't be sitting down, you'll be standing, you know, right? Then you move in, out, up to 5 times. Yeah. So
from here?
Yeah, just above the navel. Something like this. So you move it in, up like this, sharply, up to 5 times. So the first aid management of choking, when it's a foreign object in the airway that's making the person to choke, the first aid management is to dislodge it. You want it to come out. So number 1, encourage the casualty to cough. Number 2, if the object doesn't come out, you give up to 5 back slaps. And if the object still doesn't come out, you give up to 5 abdominal thrusts. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So I just remembered something. Now, you've heard of people that pass out or collapse during workouts, or at the gym, or during normal cardio workouts. But then there are some cases where you're working out and you're feeling that your heart is racing, right? But then there's that, they tell you sometimes you don't need to stop. You don't need to stop, you need to keep moving. Maybe your body gets adjusted to it, you know, with time. So when do people stop during workouts? Because we heard the story of a man that, you know, was jogging, doing morning walks or doing jogging in the morning. I think I saw a video of that. And then he collapsed on the road, right? So where do we draw the line? All right. Now, some people will go to the gym now and register in the gym. They probably have not even exercised for a very long time because they were advised, they had some medical issues or for any reason they were advised to go to the gym. They now go to the gym. They see somebody set the treadmill to a very fast speed. They too will just set it to a very fast speed and they could harm themselves because, you know, the heart that has not been beating regularly, you just want to just boom. That's situations like that. So when you go to the gym, if you've not been exercising for a very long time, you start slowly. Gradually you'll be increasing it. If the heart is beating, there's also a medical term for before that fibrillation we talked about, when I said the heart, instead of pumping, shaking like this,
the heart could start beating too fast. After that, too fast now, it will now start fibrillating, shaking. When it will not be, you see, so it's something like this. If you are exercising and you notice that your heart is beating too fast, stop. Do you understand? Because if you don't want to harm yourself, when you go to the gym, you start from low speed, you start from low, mild activities, and gradually, when you start doing that easily, you now gradually start to increase. Now, when we are doing CPR, we say 100 to 120. We didn't say you should do 200 or 300 because if the heart is beating too fast again, it's another problem.
Sure.
Yeah. So gradually, having said that, it is very important to exercise, doing all these cardio exercises, because you need to make your heart beat well, but not too fast. Do you? I don't know if I'm explaining. You know.
So if you get to that position where you're working out, like the workout is hard, and then your heart is beating very, very fast, what do you do when you stop?
You just rest. So gradually, if you have a smartwatch, you could be monitored. Gradually, you just notice that if you start to hike now, you start to climb a mountain, you start to do something rigorous, and you have a smartwatch, just be looking at the heartbeat. You see that it will be going up. There's how fast your heart will be beating that you'll be thinking, as if something wants to happen to me. So you stop. You stop. The point is, a lot of people that don't do exercises, yes, and that reminds me about something we're going to talk about. A lot of people that don't do exercises, now the heart does not beat fast, does not beat well, and that's the problem. So you have to do exercise so that your heart can be having stamina, it can be beating very well. You can set two people to run from here to there. When they get there, at whatever interval, one person will be there as if he did not do anything. The other person will be panting. That's because this one guy that is panting now probably has not been exercising. So if you exercise regularly, your heart will beat, your blood will flow very well. But that does not mean you should do it too much. Too much of everything is bad. Now, we are talking about what to do when someone suddenly collapses, someone has cardiac arrest, right? It is very important to take care of your heart so that it doesn't even get to the point where you'll be having cardiac arrest. So you need to do exercise. You need to eat healthy. You need to find time to rest. You need to check your numbers, as they say. You check your blood pressure. You need to visit doctors if you have any issue with your body. If we take care of our heart, we reduce the risk of heart-related issues. We reduce the risk of cardiac arrest. So it is also very important to make that a key message, to make awareness about taking care of your heart so that you don't get heart-related issues.
Yeah, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful session. We've been able to touch a lot of areas. We've learned so much. Lara, do you have anything to add before we round up the front corner?
Quickly, very quickly. When he was saying people should learn to exercise, their hearts, I jokingly said here, and also exercise your biceps too, because you may need it one day to be able to perform a CPR. Yes. So my question, as we attempt to wrap up, is that is it the same number of push press for men and women? Is it the same number for children? I know the answer, but for the benefit of our viewers, is it the same 100 to 20 I do on a child? Is it the same 100 to 20 I do on a man and a woman? What if the woman is pregnant? What about the elderly? Please just break it down for us as we attempt to wrap up. Thank you.
Very much, Madam Lara. I would have said I'll not answer you until you come for a training, but you've already said you will come for a training. So. All right. Now, in first aid, we have 3 categories of human. We have adult, child, and infant. So for adult, child, infant, it is 30 chest compressions to 2 rescue breaths. If it's a stranger, you skip the rescue breaths, you stick with the compressions only. But now, where the difference comes in is, for an adult, you use 2 hands for the compression. For a child, you use 1 hand. For an infant, you use 2 fingers. So for an adult, you use 2 hands. For a child, you use 1. For an infant, you use 2 fingers. But it is 30 chest compressions, 2 rescue breaths. So, there's no difference between male, female for the chest compressions. And even if the woman is pregnant, you are not compressing the stomach, you are compressing the center of the chest. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've had a very splendid session. One question before we go. What do you want every Nigerian to remember? What's one thing you would want every Nigerian to remember?
Can I make it a sentence? All right. You need to take care of your heart to reduce the risk of heart-related issues. And you need to, learn first aid. First aid is practical. You need to learn first aid so that if you find yourself in an emergency situation, for instance, where someone suddenly collapses and the person needs CPR, you'd be a lifesaver. Yeah.
Thank you very much. One day someone near you will collapse. We're not wishing for something bad, but it happens every day. It may be a stranger, it may be your friend, it may be your family. And in that moment, you will not have time to use your phone, you will not have time to Google, you will either know what to do or you will watch. This morning, choose to know. Let me leave you with these graphics that captures the whole essence of what we have done this morning. The brain begins to die in minutes. Phones don't save lives, hands do. CPR can triple survival chances, and you cannot make it worse by trying. Mr. Carter, thank you so much for joining us today. I think I speak for everyone when I say it has really been a great session. We've been able to cover a lot of things, and it's all thanks to you. So we thank you for coming. We thank you for having us today. And, we look forward to having trainings with you and collaboration with you, because we all need to have this experience. It's a sobering truth knowing that a person standing next to you could, be your greatest hope in a crisis. The clock is ticking, and, we have to be ready for every moment. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Nigerian Red Cross. And I encourage everyone to come to visit the Nigerian Red Cross to get trained, so that you would know what to do. Our certificates, first aid certificates, are accepted in any country in the world, are valid for 2 years. So after that, you do a refresher, and yeah.
Lara, let's hear your last words from Brother.
I again want to join Imabong to thank you very much for being on the show this morning, and to also let you know that as soon as I come back to Nigeria, we're going to have this training for staff, and probably people in our neighborhood. We may use it as our own CSR for LN247, partnering with the government to do this for people. Thank you very much, Arta, for being on the show, and we hope we can call you again to come back. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.
And it's time for a full look at the stories making the headlines across the globe and right here at home. So see you after the break.